go. A little bit of It Is Well there. Let me get tuned up here, but a little bit of It Is Well with My Soul. Great hymn. Lots of different churches do that, especially around this time of year. You'll hear that. This is an arrangement I've had for many years and have worked on it and kind of polished it up to various, added some things and put some various licks in it and whatnot. All right. That sounds a little bit better. Okay, so that is the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul, written by Horatio Spafford. Wonderful story behind that hymn. Just for 60 seconds, let me give you the history of that hymn. Horatio Spafford came over here from Europe to the United States trying to get his fame and fortune. And he set up business in New England, if I remember right. And came over and then was going to send for his family to come over. So business was starting to get off the ground, so he sent for his family, his wife and daughters, to come over on the next ship. So they started their journey over here to the New World. And his business, on their way, a journey across the ocean, their boat sank. And very tragically sank. And about that time, 'cause it takes many weeks for them to get over here, his business was failing. So by the time he got, the boat was supposed to arrive, and he got the news that the boat had sank, and he was completely distraught. He pretty much packed up everything and started to go back to Europe. He got about halfway in the middle of the ocean. And one of the story goes that one of the crew members of the boat came over to him and said, Mr. Spafford, this is about the place where your wife and daughter's boat went down. And so as he was looking out over the rail there, as you can imagine, a man would that's just lost his business and lost his wife and his daughters and just wondering what has happened to his life and the grief with all of that. As that was going on, he wrote this song in the middle of that moment, It Is Well With My Soul. And so that's the history of where this song came from. Very fascinating. Neil is saying that the guitar is a bit hot, so that the volume is a little bit high on that. So let's get into this. I put this song in the key of G. Now, there's some parts of it that are a little bit easier than others, and there's some parts that are a little bit more challenging. So let me just kind of talk to you about how it's written. As I was writing this, I was trying to think of the easiest way to write this. And I'm not even convinced that this is the best way to write this, but this is what it is right now. You'll notice that the melody notes, which are the notes, the highest most notes, those have stems up. And they're full size, they're big note, the bigger note heads. Okay, so like the melody, if I played the melody, now the accompaniment notes are split into two different functions. You have the bass notes, which are the down stem notes, okay, and they're a little bit slightly smaller note head. Those would be the bass notes. Now, in between those bass notes and the melody notes, I've got basically arpeggiations of the chord, and I have them written out there. So the melody notes are going to be in the right time signature. The bass notes are going to be in the right time signature, but these inner arpeggiation notes, don't worry about those being, oh my goodness, how do I count that? It doesn't have a rest there, and I don't know where this note goes. It's just an arpeggiation of the chord. So don't get too bothered by all that. I lined them up right in between the notes. So if you're looking at it for this to be, oh my goodness, I have to get the rhythm just exactly right, you're gonna go nuts trying to figure it out. Just realize the bass is on the bottom with the lower stems. The melody notes are on the top with the upper stems. And then the other notes fill it in. So let me play that first measure now with the inner notes in there. So do you see how those inner notes just kind of fill out the chord? And they're just, I tell you the truth, it's just the arpeggiation of the chord. I wish I could tell you I'm Phil Kagi and it's some elaborate Hungarian minor scale. It's not. It's just I'm in a G shape. I know I have the melody here and the bass note there, and I just kind of wobble on some notes in between. Always trying to have something going on. A couple of you are asking about my guitar. This is a Gibson J45 guitar, and the current strings I have on it are what I always have on it, which are elixirs. I like the lights, which are 10 to 46. Those seem to do well for me. There you go. Now, if you're watching this after the broadcast, the links for everything, including the PDF, are going to be down in the description below. So let's get started. Now we've got that, and I tried to put in the chord blocks above the notes just the chords that I was playing, the notes of those chords that I was playing. So you'll notice they don't always match up to a typical chord, but it's exactly what I'm playing at that moment. So I thought that would be easier. A minor 7, D with an F sharp in the bass. Okay, so as I arpeggiate that chord, I land with this shape, which is the shape that I was had notated in that chord above. So that's how that works. Okay, as I'm going through it, so sometimes I changed the chords just to make it a little bit more contemporary sounding. When you're trying to read a hymn from a hymn book, if you haven't done that before, it's pretty tough. Those hymn books are written mainly from a keyboard player's perspective, so that you have chords that change kind of blocky. They move blocky, which doesn't really lend itself really well to a guitarist playing them. So we have to kind of figure out other ways to do it. And a lot of times we can do that by just simplifying. You look at a hymn in a hymn book and it's got 15 chords, but actually it's just going through really 3 or 4 tonalities. So we have to simplify it a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about that in a future live lesson. But what I did here was take the chords. I'm going from the first chord, which is a 1. I need to get to the 4 chord, which is that C. So I just walk up. A minor, G with a B, C, A minor 7th, D with an F sharp in the bass, kind of a 2-5 to the 1. And then I go down to the 6 minor. Walk up again just to give some... Sorry. At that point, and you'll see this a lot of hymns, this is called a secondary dominant. So I'm in the key of G, and I'm playing an A7th sort of a tonality, which is the 5 of the D that's coming. But I even hold off on that D, and I give you a 2 minor first, and then the D. So I'm just stretching and oozing and around these different chord changes. Then I'm back to the 1. I'm going to go up to that 4 again, but instead of walking up, I just go to the 3, 4. Here comes that secondary dominant again. You'll see this a lot in hymns. This is the 5 of the 5. That's that A major. Here's that D. Walking down. Then walking back up. D sus to the D. Very common, especially in hymnody. You will have a sus going to the... So on a 5 chord, you will have the 5 sus to the 5. You always have that sus on the 5. And then you'll have the 1. Sometimes you'll even kind of have a 4/1, which I do right there. Okay, so that's a little bit of how the chords are moving there. Skip is asking, am I using a particular picking pattern? The short answer is no. I mean, I'm playing the melody and I'm playing the bass line. What happens in between? I tried to notate some stuff down here. Am I going to play that the same way twice? Probably not. Does it matter for me to play it exactly whether it goes from a G to a D or D to a G? No. The short answer is no, it doesn't matter, really. It's just inner arpeggiations and harmonizing of that note. So what you do for it is not specific. You got to hit the melody right, you got to hit the bass note right. All the stuff that happens in the middle, that's up to you as the player to do it. So you could use my stuff as an example, but feel free to, if you can't get that rhythm right, do what you would do. Make it your own. Okay? So that's the A section of the song that I took you through there, and through the first ending. At that point, you would go back and play that all again. Now, I wrote in the words. If you're interested, sometimes it helps me as I'm playing the song to kind of remember how the words go. So I wrote the words in there as well. Now, some of this may be too advanced for you. That's okay. Grab what you can. Just grab the melody note and maybe the bass note, and simplify it that way. And just forget all that inner stuff. And you can come up with a much simplified arrangement of it that way. So I would play that A section twice, that verse section twice. Okay? Now, if I go the second time, I have a first and second ending. It's kind of like a fork in the road. So the first time I come through, I take the first ending. The second time I come through, I take the second ending. The second ending, you'll notice it has written up there, to the chorus. Okay, so we go to the next section. This is the chorus section of this song. And it goes to the D with the F sharp. Again, very common in hymns to go to the 5 chord in the chorus section of the song, or in the B section of the song. That's the little lick there. Then it does it again. All of that is going between 2 shapes, a D with an F sharp, and then a G. Now, remember what we've talked about. A chord can have many different melody notes that are part of that chord. This D with the F sharp, in this one, I'm using the D as the highest note, but I could use the C as the highest note, or maybe the A as the highest note. I can't really use the F sharp because then I have to kind of change the shape. I guess I could get all the way up to the A if I change the shape. Okay, so I almost got a whole octave there. On the G, I can do a G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So practice these. I mean, the chord changes are not that complex. You're just varying the melody notes with that. I hope that helps you there to not be chained to exactly what is on the page in these different arrangements. Now, you'll also notice in the tab, I have written in the melody, the rhythm of the tab. I do a lot of reading of books and music books and writing of music books and things like that too. And it always frustrates me as a guitar player that they put the tab but they have no rhythm. So I wrote the rhythm so you kind of have an idea of what the rhythm is in a tab. It's ridiculous that you have tab and don't have the rhythm. It's just this, mass of notes. So who knows if you're trying to read the tab what it is. So, and I made extra special checking to make sure the tab is correct and I'm playing the right, what is on the tab is actually how I'm fingering the chord. Now, I might have missed something, but I checked it. That tab is generally pretty accurate. So as I go through that B section, it's really just a 4 to a 1 to a 4, but I climbed up from that. This is top of the 3rd page. Add a little bass move in there, give it a little interesting. And then I have the C2. You can use these, you can substitute in these 2 chords, these more modern chords, these minor 11ths, I did it earlier. And these 2 chords. that kind of gives it a little bit more of a contemporary sound. You know, if you're interested in those, I did a series on that, a fretboard workout series called Money Chords, and that takes you through all of those different chords. So if you're unfamiliar with some of the C2s and G2s and minor 11ths and that sort of stuff, that might be a series that you might want to check out. So on the top of page 3, and then I have a little rhythm. Instead of just going, which is what I could have done, I kind of did a little bit of a walk down. So here's that rhythm. Da, 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 da. So just for a second, we kind of slip out of the 8th note bass and I go to a 16th note bass. Da, 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 da. So it ends up being. I'm going from a C2 to a B minor 7th. Notice how I have the bar there. And then I hit the G there with my pinky, and then outline an A minor 7th chord. Okay, so that whole measure there from the top line of page 3. Then it goes to 16th note, bass note rhythm. Da, 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 da. Then back to 8th notes. Now, look at that first ending right there on page 3. Hey, this is one of my favorite little tricks to do in G. You know, it's a little gag you can do in G. And it goes like this. If you're a guitar player, you need to learn this. It's just such a signature sort of a move that we as guitar players do. And you can do it. So you land on a chord. It gives a little bit of motion there. Anything that can give motion like that is valuable. It creates a little bit of interest in what you're doing. So instead of just going, it gives a little bit of motion there. I could go to the 4 and keep the G in the bass. That's cool. Or I did a kind of a D suspended top half. It's actually the top half of a C chord, but I'm up at here 2 frets up on the 3rd fret. Then I have the top half of a C chord move down. Then I have back to the open G. To make it a little bit cooler, I slide up to it. That's a great move. That move has put food on my table. It's little schmaltzy things like that you can do on guitar that really, people immediately go, oh, well, he's a real player. Same thing, E minor. If I'm in a studio session, I don't play E minor. I play an E minor 9th. If I'm really slick, I'll slide up to it. Oh man, he's a real guitar player there. It's the same trick. It's just the same gag. Top half of a C chord moved up 2 frets, so it's a D, kind of a D suspended. Down to a C with a G. And so that's that move. So I'm sliding into that D sus. Sliding into the D sus. Takes a little bit of practice to do that. And then I repeat back to the chorus section of the song. Up in the bass. Here's our 4 chord. Here's our 16th. Now, the first ending, I did 5, 2, 1, and then I did my little fancy. This second ending, I'm going to do the old switcheroo, and I'm going to go to the 6 minor. And go to that 6 minor. Well, E minor. Well, what would be the 5 of an E minor? If I want to get to an E minor, what would be the 5 of that? A B7th. Well, if I throw a B7th with maybe a D sharp in the bass, That explains that chord on the 3rd page, the middle line, that last measure. See how well that sets that up for that E minor? It's a little trick, okay? So it's a little fake out that we do as instrumentalists there. 2, instead of going 5, I did this little 5 of the 6 minor. 6 minor. And then I have a little bit of a lick right there. And then I'm going to the A2, which is the 5 of 5. We've talked about that. Secondary dominant. We call that in the biz, okay? So I'm at that coming into the tag, I have my little B7 with a D sharp. Now, here's the lick I have written. It's a little pull off from the E to the, or excuse me, from the G to the F sharp. Then I pluck E, D. I'm fingerstyle, by the way. I'm not playing it with a pick. Hit the A, pluck, pull off to the G. Okay. A. I hammer on to that B, and then I hit this A2 with a C sharp in the bass. So that lick was now being. Okay, and practice that a little bit, and you'll get that underneath your fingers. Okay. Now I'm playing that with the 3rd finger on the G, 1st finger on the A, but you don't have to. You could do 2nd finger, but it just feels better to me. Sorry. You could use either your pinky on that F or that C sharp, or your 3rd finger. See how it just kind of weasels its way right up to that C sharp of the A. Okay, it's a cool little trick there. So if I put all that together from the 2nd ending. Now, notice on the A2 with a C sharp, this is the 3rd page, the middle measure of the last line, I've got those as a half note. So I'm holding that, and then I'm also arpeggiating a little bit. Now, and then you'll see that little comma. See that little comma mark right there? That is a breath mark. Okay, now in guitar world, we don't need to take a breath like a trumpet player would, but it's a reminder for you to just pause just for a second there. Just pause. So I come out of that lick. So instead of just rushing right, we let that moment happen. We milk that moment just for a little bit. Okay, we worked so hard to learn that moment. It's such a pretty nice, pretty moment. Let's let that flower, let's just look at that flower for a second, and then we move on. Okay, so when you hit something really pretty, present it for a second, and then move on. Okay. And then we spin out of it. You see how much better that sounds than if I just rush through that? It's like you gave us something pretty and you didn't let us enjoy it. Okay? And then this is a tag, so I go back and I do this same lick again. Same lick. Now, I embellish the lick that I just did. Okay, so instead of going, now I am adding a little 30-second note. All I did was embellish it. So do you see it's the same lick? But now it's turned into pull off, hammer on, pull off, open. Don't get all scared with those 30-second notes. And don't worry about, oh my goodness, I have to count it 1E and 2E. No, you're going to die. Don't do that. It's just a little flourish, okay? So that's the first part of it. Then I have my 16th notes like I just did. But I keep going down with my F sharp with my pinky. That's important. And then I do this little E, F sharp, E, D, with between my first and my fourth. It's kind of tricky. That's the full part of that. Let's see. Oh, Steve, that sounds so amazing. But do you see kind of what it is? It's the same lick as I did. I just kind of schmaltzed it out a little bit. Give a few more little wobbles on it. Now, if you get good at a few of these little tricks, you have a few of these tools in your tool belt, you can really sound convincing in some of these keys. So that's one. That's one of them right there. Learn that. Da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. It's a hammer-on pull-off, back to the, going off to an open string. Okay, that's a little pull-off trick there. So the full lick would be... a pretty little lick. Now, that may take you a few weeks to get that up to speed, but once you get that up to speed, wow, that's fun. Anytime you have something in E minor and you're going to an A, which you're probably going to be going to a lot, if you're playing anything in D or in G, then you'll use that lick all the time. Now I do the tag again. This is the third time through. 5 sus to the 5. Now just to milk it a little bit more, I give you the 1. But I put a 4 over it. So there you go. I'm just stretching. Do you see? It's just stretching. I could even make it more elaborate than that. I could do the 5 suspended, 4. What if I did a C minor? And then I resolved to the G. Okay, so all of that tension and that anticipation, that's what that's what makes music work, okay? Is these surprises, I wasn't expecting to go to that chord, the little flourish, the anticipation. He's finally going to give me that bass note. He's finally going to give me that 1 here, and he does. But he makes me wait for it. So the bass and the melody resolve, but these inner notes don't resolve yet. And I could stretch those out. How many ways can I stretch it? Okay, and that's how this all works. Okay, so that's the basic understanding of this. We'll answer some questions here, but let's give something away. I wanna give something away. We've been talking about fingerstyle stuff, and we had a great live lesson. Gosh, it's probably been about a year ago with Bill Cooley. He was the guitar player for Kathy Mattea, longtime guitar player from Kathy Mattea, great guy. So we're going to give away a Bill Cooley CD. What a wonderful player. I want to have him back again. So the winner of this is going to be Andrew Simpson. Andrew Simpson, you have just won an autographed Bill Cooley CD. Now what you need to do for me, Andrew, is you need to email me at service@guitargathering.com, service@guitargathering.com, and then tell me what you won. That's really helpful. Tell me your screen name, and then tell me your address, okay? And so I was filling orders for some of these things today, and I forgot to mention for you to tell me what you won. So I have people sending, hey, thanks for picking me. I'm so excited to win. And they give me their address, and I have no idea what they won. So if you could write in there what you won. I won the Bill Cooley CD or the whatever. That helps me as I'm trying to get these things out there. Okay, let me give you a couple of announcements of some things. If you're interested in some of these modern chords, we did mention the fretboard workout series on the money chords. Now, last week we talked about some jazz, and I gave you some wonderful tips. That ended up being a much better lesson than it should have been, because I hadn't really prepared too much for it. But we ended up talking about learning how to do a jazz standard. And I think it's already been viewed a couple thousand times, so you guys have really gotten into that one. And we got through some pretty great concepts. We may have to kind of revisit some of those things and flesh them out a little bit more. But the jazz concepts, if you're interested, go back and check that live lesson. That was one that was called Learning How to Play a Jazz Standard or something like that. And also, I was referring, in that lesson, I was referring to the jazz standard, All the Things You Are, and the PDF. And so you can go to that lesson and look in the description below, and it'll have the PDF that I was referring to, so that you're not just kind of trying to figure out what I was doing there. Okay, so that's that. I also wanted to mention, if you were interested in the jazz reel book that we mentioned from last week's lesson, we had a lot of people that were interested in that. I've got a few of those in, and it comes with all the jazz, most all the jazz standards that you'll ever need to know, plus the backing tracks. So the guys will put up the link for that if you're interested, and I'll maybe put it down in the description below as well. One thing I also wanted to mention too, reach down here for it, is we're getting a new shipment in of these Music No Bad guitar care kits. If you're interested, I'll put the link for that as well. A great guitar care kit. I was using this just the other day to tighten up some jacks on my electric board. So it comes with all the Phillips and different heads that you would need, but also a knob puller and jack tightener and things like this. I have these, and I use them all the stinking time. If you're interested, we're getting a few more of these in, so we'll have some, and we can get those out to you. All right. Let's get to a couple of questions there. Sharon is saying, I understand the chorus and verse, but what does tag mean? Okay, so let's talk about what a tag is. All right. Well, let's back up a little further than that. The parts of a song. Okay? You have the intro, which is usually a little small section of a song before the actual main body of the song starts. So that would be called the intro. It's usually 4 bars long, something like that. And then you get into the main body of the song. The verses of the song are the things that set up the story of the song. What is happening, what is going on in the song. Those are the verses. And you may have 1, 2, 3, 4. American Pie can have like 12 or 18 of them. Okay, so they're just the thing that tells the story of the song. Then you end up with another section of the song that is called the chorus, which is kind of the main idea of the song. So now you've set out the story of the song, and then you get to the main chorus, the idea of the song. That's the chorus. Now, you often will also have a bridge section, which is a different section. It just kind of varies from the verse and the chorus and takes you somewhere else and maybe comments on the song. That's a bridge. And then it'll usually go back to the chorus and play it a couple times, and then you're out of it. Now, when you get toward the end, oftentimes you'll do what's called a tag, which is what Sharon is saying. What a tag is most often, it is kind of a repeat of the last few bars of the song, and you usually do it just like you would do a joke. You do it 3 times through. You do it the first time, and then you do it the second time, and then the third time you hit them with the joke. It's the same sort of a process in music. So the tag, I do, like in this particular song, if I'm coming around to the end of that section, here's the tag. That's the first time through it. Here's the second time through. Here's the third time through. And then I finally ended. Okay? So that tag is a section you'll hear on a lot of songs, not all songs, but oftentimes you'll hear the last phrase, the last 4 bars, the last musical idea repeated 3 times. And that's what that tag is. Now, in jazz, like we were doing jazz stuff last week, you can have a tag in a jazz song. Let's say I was doing, let's see. Okay, so that was a tag 3 times. Now, a lot of times you'll hear in jazz, they'll do the tag, the first tag in the written key, then they'll go up 2 whole steps and do the tag 2 steps up, and then we'll do the tag again in the written key. So you'll hear something like this. Very common in jazz. In the written key, 2 steps up. Okay, now that's in jazz. It wouldn't work as well with It Is Well With My Soul, but that's the same sort of a concept. It's a little section at the end that is repeated a few times, sometimes just once, sometimes twice, most oftentimes 3 times. Okay, now Sharon goes on to ask, is this a place to play more dramatically? Dramatically, I don't know if dramatically is what how I would say that. It's meant to extend, to make more of the ending. So, boy, in classical music, you get halfway through the song and they start the ending, and you just go round and round and stretch this ending until you're begging for it to resolve. That's in classical, they'll do that. In this one, it's just a way of bringing emphasis to the end of the song. Okay, and I can do it all kinds of different ways, but that is the larger concept. Okay, I'm just trying to bring emphasis to the end of the song by extending it, by stretching it. How many different ways can I stretch it? Now, Lee is saying tag is sometimes called an outro. Well, true. An outro oftentimes is like the same thing as the intro. It's just done, 4 bars at the very end, and you'll see that quite a bit too. Now, Dave C is asking, how many chord melodies can you memorize that you don't need the music? Well, as many as you need to, and it depends on how many you do. When I was playing a bunch of jazz gigs, I remember back in the old day when I would do a lot of restaurant stuff, boy, I could play a 3-hour restaurant before I even bother opening my book, because you just kind of learn a bunch of tunes and you just play through them, and noodle around on them. So you can memorize a lot if you do it a lot. Okay. John Yakamoto is saying, is the June conference still a possibility to occur once things settle down? I'll say it exactly like you said it. The June conference is still on, and it is still a possibility if things settle down. So currently it is still on. If things settle down and it looks safe and we can still have it, then we're still ready to have it. But I'm kind of dragging my feet on making a decision on that yet, because I just don't want to, if this concludes, rather, all this sickness concludes in a time, nobody knows when it's going to end, but if it ends quicker, then we still might be able to do the conference. So at this point, I'm just kind of holding off, especially to the end of April, to decide on whether we can do the conference. But currently, at this point, it's still on. Now, Lynn Richardson is saying, what measure is the end of the tag? Well, I guess the end of the tag would be the end of the song, when you finally end, There, I finally resolve to the end of that. Okay, there you go. So that is a little bit of It Is Well With My Soul. Let's give away something else. Okay, we're going to give away something else. I want to give away, this is a Johnny Highland CD. A Johnny Highland gospel CD, Pickin' for the Lord. Okay, And it's got What a Friend We Have in Jesus, I Saw the Light, Old Rugged Cross, Old Time Religion, Just a Closer Walk with Thee. But Johnny Hyland's doing it, so you know it's going to be kind of have his flair with it. So the winner of this, oh, that's a good name. We're pulling Pat Lindgren. Pat, you have just won our Johnny Hyland CD. Send me your information, Pat. Pat is one of our wonderful helpers for our summer conference. She heads up the jam sections of our summer conference and has been doing such a great job with that, and folks are loving that. You know, if there's something about playing together and something about forcing yourself to be musical. You know, we're all shut in this month. You know, we might as well come out of it with some skills and with some learning. So we're trying to make the most of every opportunity to learn in these different things. Now, another opportunity that we have to learn is on our discussion board at guitargathering.com. Each month, I don't even really deal with it, but it goes on all the time and has been going on for years, is the monthly recording challenge, where they will put up a topic or an idea and say, record something, a song, or whatever that is along that theme. And folks just, every month, folks are putting up things. If you're interested in doing that, it's a good, fun little way to keep playing and to force yourself to learn. And so that's our monthly recording challenge. Nutty is the screen name of the wonderful person that heads that up. And so check that out on our Guitar Gathering page for that sort of stuff. All right, so there's that. Let me play something else for you. I'm going to, this is not going to look very pretty. I'm going to change guitars, okay? So I'm going to go to my classical guitar, which is back here. If I was really smart, I would have had this close by, but we're having to just make do. So let me just check my tuning on this. This is a nylon string guitar. Gets a little bit more of a warmer sound. It's got 3 wound strings up at the top and then 3 nylon strings on it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay, so it's got a warmer sound. It's got a slightly larger neck, wider neck. It's the nylon strings give it a little bit more of a give than a steel strings would. So it's a really pleasant sounding instrument. Now I wanted to play a hymn. Let me grab my book. This is a hymn normally associated, and I'm reading right out of a hymnal. Okay, this is the red hymnal that I'm reading out of, and here we are. We're all trapped, and we can't be together. And the song that was kind of in my heart was, it's kind of funny. The hymn As We Gather, which, you know, here we're all separated, and so the some people call it As We Gather. In the Lutheran hymnal, it's We Praise Thee, O God, Our Redeemer, Creator. But we gather together. It's called by many different names, and it's one of the oldest hymns. I found out a little bit more of the history of it. It's one of the oldest hymns. I think it was the melody is from the 1500s or something. So let me see if I can play a little bit of it for you, and we can you can hear a little bit of how it sounds. right, there you go. A little bit of We Gather Together. Now, you'll notice I threw in a couple of the same little tricks. A same lick we just did, okay? Why bother learning 2 licks when you can apply the same one in different tunes? So, there you go, okay? Now, I also did in that one, I stretched the ending. I didn't know whether y'all caught that, but instead of just playing the 1, I did the 4, and then I walked down. Just a 4, 3, 2. Here's the 2, 1. Or 1. There you go. Okay, I even stretched it out further. I did. And then, just to make you wait for it a little bit more, I gave you the suspended. Do that. Okay, so just you can apply the same little tricks for all of these things here. Okay. Any last minute questions on any of that? Because it's about time we land this ship. I wanted to give away one more thing. This is a great strap that it has some crosses on it, some hearts. It's a wonderful black strap, very gorgeous strap that I want to give away. And I thought this would be a great one to do it. So the winner of this is Bob Phillips. Bob Phillips, you have just won this great strap there. So, hey, send me your information, Bob, what you won, and your screen name and address and all that sort of stuff at service@guitargathering.com. Some of you are asking about this guitar. This is a nylon string Yamaha guitar. Let's see, it is a G245S. It is nothing fancy. It is a student model, literally a student model guitar, but I have a really good pickup put in it. And it gets, over the years, it's gotten a really, really good sound. And I've done more recording work, oddly enough, on this guitar than I've done on electric or acoustic or things like that. So it's just has that real warm sound. I can do Latin stuff on it, you know. So it gets a real pretty Latin sound. I remember I was doing a recording session. Barbara Mandrell was doing the producing of this session. And we were doing some song, and they wanted me just to do some intro lick for it. And, you know, I could play my guts out on electric, and it doesn't matter. But when I do something as simple like... Suddenly I hear back, yeah, that's the sound. That's the sound we want. Okay? Just a simple little lick. It's amazing how... Very pretty sound, and everybody always loves that sound. All right. Well, it's about time to land this ship. Neil is asking, is it difficult to transition from a steel string to a classical fretboard? The fretboard is a little bit wider. So is it difficult? No. It'll take a little bit of you know, just playing on it to kind of get your fingers used to the wider stretch, but it's not not something that is going to take you longer than 5 minutes to figure out. Okay. What's going to throw most players off a little bit more is the action's a little bit higher, but it doesn't hurt because the strings are a little bit wobblier. Okay, so it ends up being kind of evening out, so it's almost easier to play on classical.